Hi everybody, welcome to another Toy Guys Talking. Big pleasure to have on Toy Guys Talking Charlie, a guy who makes toys. And I just took a look at some of Charlie's custom Toyshop toys, which is totally, I mean, I already love real Ghostbusters, but you've really reinvigorated, re-sparked my love of real Ghostbusters with your incredible customs and reproductions, that awesome Ecto roof. So thank you for doing those, and I'm happy to hear a lot of real Ghostbusters fans are enjoying them too.
Very cool, man. It's awesome. It's been overwhelmingly positive. I think the best feeling is when you get an email from somebody and they're telling you, they were able to pass their kids along, their toys along to their kids, and when they went to do so, the packs are broken. So luckily you had one. It's like now the kids are playing with it and everything, and that's just so awesome. That's just like one of the best feelings in the universe. Yeah. So I got
a message out of the blue a while back from Jason Swank, who co-hosts Rebel Force Radio, my favorite Star Wars podcast. It was the Force Cast before that. And he was saying some nice things about the channel, but he was also asking, do you know where to get some reproduction Ghostbusters proton packs for the real Ghostbusters? And he figured, like, if anyone will know, this guy will know. And I said, well, I know where to get a lot of lots of things, but no, there's no game in town. No one's doing them. And you got to pay through the nose for the originals. So as soon as I saw these, I messaged him and I said, dude, and all the different colors. And it wasn't until I actually did the review that I compared yours with the originals. And I realized you didn't just do a cast or a scan of it and redoing the originals. That's what I want to talk to you a little bit about. Did you design these from scratch or tweak the originals?
So pictures of what everybody else has kind of done as far as toys, comic books. And every year I get a new Ghostbusters book. I'm staring at the giant almanac over here, the ultimate guide. And you look at all of it and there's some consistency, but there's a lot of inconsistency. So when I sat down, I was like, okay, what can I make that will be pretty in the spirit of everything else, but at the same time still kind of look like the original, and that's where it led me. I mean, it was a lot of fine tuning, a lot of removing shapes, adding shapes, saying, no, that looks terrible. No, that doesn't print well. Oh, look, that fell apart, but it just, after a while you just keep building on it, and then you get something you like, and it's like, okay, this is in the same spirit. You don't want to copy directly anything. You kind of want to, add. That's the thing about Ghostbusters. You kind of, if you can add to the lore, that's pretty cool. So it's kind of the direction I went in with everything. Like, how can I take it and make something that was kind of in that spirit? So
it's a lot of good points. I like that you say in the spirit, because that's a term that I'm always using. It's not just this, and it's not just this. It's this, it's gotta hit you here too. I know it hits us down here, and I'm pointing to my wallet, maybe backside. Some people have it in the back pocket, but it is the spirit. I also love that, you're sharing your experience of trial and error, and that's so important, especially for the younger generation, a lot of whom are very, skittish about failure.
Yeah.
It's got to be perfect the first time. No, it won't be. It's got to be flawed the first time. That's the only absolute when you're doing anything creative. It's got to be flawed the first time, and the 10th, and maybe the 50th time. But you keep trying over. And I also love that you say you wanted to add to it. That's absolutely perfect, because there's a lot of reboots and reimaginings that feel like, no, we need to reinvent. And I don't want a reinvention. I want a refit. Yeah. I want an add-on. And so you didn't come out with your own Ecto and say, even better, right? And I don't want a new Hasbro or Kenner Classics new Ecto, right? I want an add-on. And those roof racks, for both of them, that's so awesome that you did one for the first one and for the second one. That's, to me, like a super fan's thinking. No, they put two out.
Yeah.
And the only difference between the two were stickers. And that's just not good enough, right? Like, I had them both and I was like, oh man, really? Just stickers is the only thing that makes it 1A? But in the movie, like, the roof was like, whoa.
I sat there and I thought about that. And, I think right around that time, I'd probably watched part two for the first time in like 2 or 3 years. And there was something about them just driving around with the LEDs on the sides, trying to just get as much money as they possibly could, as fast as they could, because they weren't sure if it was going to last again. And I always feel
Yeah.
like in life, we're like, okay, I got to do this now. And if I don't succeed, well, that's okay. If I don't succeed in the future, that's fine. But I got to save now because we don't know when this is going to happen again. And something about that was like, yeah, all right, let's do that. Let's make one for that one too, because that's just hilarious. Um,
Did you do the first one first?
yeah, I did the first one first, and then with the second one, what I did was I took elements of the first one. I kind of
Like they did.
yeah, stretched it out a little. Yeah, exactly. I kind of did what they did, and I stretched it out a little bit. I added this and this. I changed the satellite dish around. I added the side scrollers. I put a couple other little things on top. Subtle updates to make it seem like a newer, more modern version, even though it was just you knew it was the same old car driving around New York City, just with whatever they could slap on it. And I almost went that far. I was like, well, what else could I just slap on this?
Yeah. I love how the real one is almost as tall as it is long now. Like it looks when it takes a corner, it looks like it's going to tip over. So your add-on, like luckily your add-on isn't that huge because that would be overkill. But I think you nailed it, especially when you've got them both side by side and you go, yeah, that's definitely the part two. Because it works so well with all the extra stickers. The slime stickers and the hazard tape and the weird back sticker on it. And like, it was definitely the thing that was missing. And then the proton packs are so awesome. Like you've improved everything that I think, was a weak point in the original one. We all love the originals and we're not trying to say the new ones are better, but like as a longtime fan, when I look at your clip, I go, that's better. If I had that when I was a kid, that would have been less likely to break than my Winstons. And this is just a no-brainer. Like pulling that out, that should have been there from the start. Clipping it on the back feels a lot safer than the original ones. And then the proton pack rack, there's been so many people who saw that picture I posted and went, what? Like that is the epitome of unfinished business for a toy.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, I usually when it comes to my creativity, I get in these like just kind of like these like 2 week, 3 week bursts, and I think of everything I possibly can, and then I'm just like, let's do this. Well, why not? Let's do this. Why not? And then that pack rack, I was like, yeah, that's missing. That needs to be done. That has to be in there. So, you print the packs. You're like, cool, I've got packs. This is good. And then you're like, now I got to figure out how to fit them on this rack so they don't. So they slide in there.
And we're adults. We're not going to throw them in the back like we would have when we were young.
Put in there neatly. Unlike when I was 9, playing with my toys in the car, losing all my G.I. Joe weapons before I get home, right? So, it's just one of those things. You're onto it. There's so many great toys from our childhood that, when we were playing with them, we knew there were things missing. We knew there were things that didn't make sense in your video, and you talked about it too with the chair on top. I didn't know to put the chair in the back of Ecto 1. I never saw that in the cartoon. I never did that, but it's just one of those things. You get to this point where you're like, okay, well, you have all these great old toys. What else can we do to make them better? Well, how do we breathe new life into them,
Absolutely.
So that's where that came from. But that was a lot of fun to make. That was a lot of late nights for me. A lot of rehashing it. How can I add this? How can I make this better? Where are the traps? Oh wait, yeah, it needs traps because you're not going to just throw the traps in the back, So yeah, that was a lot of late nights, that's for sure.
And I almost don't want to call your stuff add-ons because your stuff feels more like completions. Like I said in the video, the tops, the roof racks for the Ectos, you've made to me every Ecto on the planet incomplete. Like they're not complete without those roof racks. I had 2 of them. I was missing the chair on one of them. I wasn't sad I was missing the chair on the other one because the chair is like, what is this chair? I mean, give us 2 chairs, so 4 Ghostbusters, right?
Right, exactly. And I got to tell you, when I watched your video, I was actually at this Thai restaurant I go to on Friday nights. I was sitting there and I loaded up your video in the booth, and when you said that, I was like, oh man.
I got a lot of printing to do.
Complete. I was like, oh man, well, that's awesome. And then I thought about it for a second. I'm like, oh man, what have I done?
Can you can you edit that part out, Mike?
Crazy.
Mm.
Yeah, it's just fun. It's just
So
so much fun.
the other awesome add-on or completion is the slime blowers.
Yeah.
So with these later repaint Ghostbusters, who I don't think these guys even came with power packs. They came with funky, weird,
Yeah.
different
Yeah. I think they
weapons,
came with weird little add-on weapons and stuff. Yeah.
but they still had the holes in their back, so they look perfect. As they almost look like what an animated version of Ghostbusters 2 Ghostbusters would look like.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
why I think they look great with the Ecto 1A. And absolutely vital if you're going to do Ghostbusters 2 Ghostbusters, you need the slime blowers.
Yeah.
So I'm so curious. I haven't asked you yet. Where'd you get the slime blower design from? Did you do that from scratch too, or is it
Same
like a,
idea. A couple different things out there, and then you're like, what are the basic elements of it? You know, it's got I don't know all the pieces off the top of my head, but it's got the giant cylinder in the middle, two smaller cylinders on the side, all your different fixings on the left and the right, a base, a back, and it's got to look good. And then the trick was, though, when you think about it, you know, you look at the slime blowers that they have in the movies, and they're holding them with two hands, and that's just not going to be accomplished with a Kenner figure.
right?
And then you look at it again, it's like, well, it's a cylinder, and at the same time, if you put a square on a cylinder, it's going to look a little weird. Don't get me wrong. The first couple of designs I made on the actual blower attachment, they were square. But then I was like, well, why don't I just round this off? It would just be cooler if I rounded this off. Let's just give it a try, and I did, and I loved it. But the design overall, a lot of it was a little bit of what I thought it would look like if Kenner had made it.
Yeah, I think you nailed it.
Just simple, you know, very simple. And that's the thing, you know, these toys, they're not like, you know, the Marvel Legends figures with 6,000 points of articulation. You know,
Yeah.
I can go overboard with designing, but what's in the spirit, you know, and that's just kind of what it was. So it was a little fine tuning and tweaking here, moving the peg around, doing a couple of things here and there with smaller pieces, print settings. That's the most challenging part, is getting the details you want with the print settings. But I mean, it was just something that was like, you know, if I were a kid and I can go back to being 9 years old or 8 years old, and I saw this in a package, would I be, you know, would I grab it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I probably would.
Yeah. Ray and Winston with the slime blowers instead of the proton packs.
Exactly.
Because when these guys and the slimed heroes and all that stuff, I didn't buy a single one of them.
Oh,
Because I was like, where's the and I know the slimed heroes came with purple proton packs, which
yeah,
like cool now, but kind of at
sure.
the time I was like, but the blue ones, and you know, why didn't these guys come with black proton packs? And
Right.
yeah, so that just feels like an itch that has finally been scratched. And when I was looking at the slime blower, the first thing I thought was, oh cool, he scanned one of the Diamond Select slime blowers, and I'm looking at him like, did he? And I thought, no, it looks like
Yeah.
a vintage Kenner, and I'm racking my brain. Was there? No, there wasn't. Is this a Mattel? Like when Mattel had the license? I'm like, I don't know. I don't have a Mattel figure to. Did they even do it? I was trying to figure out, where did you get this? Like
Yeah.
how did you do this?
That's, you know, you look at everything that's out there, and there are people, you know, one of the coolest things ever, people that do cosplay, right? And they build these packs, and they build them from scratch, and they
boy.
they follow the just everything, the parts list to a T, and it's awesome. Some of the stuff they come up with is awesome. And then they make their own little adjustments. And sometimes they're even better looking, right?
Because it's got personality to it.
Exactly.
A uniqueness.
And you got to take all of that into accountability, you know, and it's just one of these things, you know, when I make something and I think about it, I try to think of something that's like, okay, if everybody looks at this, I want them to know what it is right away.
Yep.
Because that's a problem. But at the same time, it's like, you know, you got to pull all these elements in when you're designing something. It can't just be what this guy made or what this guy made. It's what would be your interpretation of it? If you had all the parts sitting there, how would you put them together? What would your slime blower look like?
Yeah.
It would look like a slime blower, but I don't know, obviously it would work, but it would still, you know, be to my character and what I feel it should look like for the toys. So, yeah, that's just how I go, man. It's like tons of data going into the brain and trying to figure out, okay, what would it look like with this, and this, trial and error, build, throw away. Then you end up with something that's like, yeah, I think people might like that.
Well, I love it, and I thought the two hoses going from the actual blower to the back was a stroke of genius, because Everyone remembers the yellow, and you found the exact yellow cord. Like it
I
is
know, right? Isn't that weird?
exact.
Still making it.
They're still making it same texture, and it's burned into my mind. Not just because I still have them, but I remember. But the fact that the slime blower has two of them, like it would, like
Yeah.
back in 1985 or 86, a figure with a, well, I guess 89 for Ghostbusters 2, it would have two cords going into it. One for slime, one for whatever to
Yeah.
positively charge it, or who knows
Yeah.
what they're tech. But it's like, no, there wouldn't be one. This is heavy
Yeah.
duty stuff. They're
Oh yeah.
and I love like now that you pointed out the curving hook for the arm for the slime blower makes perfect sense because the proton packs are all angular mostly,
Mm-hmm.
so angular
Yeah.
attachment and curved slime blower. It's brilliant, and I love that you've made these sturdier, the actual proton streams too.
Yeah.
So still love the original one, not
Of
putting down
course.
the original, but these feel so much sturdier while still having like a real power look to them, like
Yeah.
lightning.
Yeah.
So, what you've basically done is the original proton streams. I love this. The original proton streams look like if you took the original streams and your streams and put them together,
I
right?
never thought of that.
Because when you look at the stream, it's sort of got two elements to it. It's got
Yeah.
like a wibbly wobbly, and it's got like a lightning.
Yeah.
So this to me looks just as home in a wand as the original ones do, because it's kind of like it alternates between the two looks.
Mhm.
So again, just
That's awesome.
brilliant. It just fits perfectly. And then the other custom you've done is those blasted doors for the Firehouse, which I never had the Firehouse. If I did, I would have smashed those doors to pieces, smashing the ecto out of it. I was lucky enough to get a Firehouse with doors intact, and I don't push it too far. I gave it one good whack in the Firehouse video I did for it. I was like, I have to, just for old times, cross my fingers, wham.
Oh, yeah.
But you've got replacement doors, and again, this is so awesome for the people who want the original style doors. There you go, you can have them. But you've also designed ones that have inner doors that open like the real Hook and Ladder building. It's like, oh my God.
How else is Dana Barrett going to walk into your Firehouse?
That's right. That's right. It makes so much sense that it'd be double doors. And I was staring at that, at the pictures. I'm like, how? How did you do that?
You got to get a lot of late nights in the 3D printer. You just got to bring your ideas to life, and it's going to take time. But like you said, the failure. It's all about the failure. With the failure, you get, I feel bad because you get scraps of plastic, but they always serve a purpose somewhere around here. Whether, I'm shimming something, replacing a window or something like that. But just trial and error, trying to figure out how to get a hinge to work, knowing how a hinge works on a regular door, and then saying, okay, well, how can I make this possibly look like Kenner made a hinge,
Right.
And then you get it and you like it. And it's also like, this is great, this works. And then you go to open up the doors and they don't open all the way. They're just kind of like this. I was like, oh no, that ain't good.
And if you're off by a fraction.
And it's like, well, now I've got another 6 hours to go. So go do something else, come back and test it later. And
so your doors do close and open.
Yeah, they close and open,
man.
and little ones close. The inner door is open and closed too. Yeah, oh yeah.
Now, how annoying is it because I think I can relate when I'm doing editing, and sometimes I am so meticulous, almost like, where's my monocle? Like sometimes I think maybe I should have gone into surgery because this stuff is so precise, like right down to the frame sometimes.
Yes.
Edits sound. And then you export it and you're like, why is everything off by an eighth of a second? Like my entire audio. What happened? And then you realize, where did this eighth of a second black video come from? It's like the whole timeline. So when you spend that many late nights and so much like brainstorming and actual physical work designing this stuff, and then you print it, and you're like, wait a second, you didn't hold up your end of the deal.
If you catch it early enough, it's not that bad. It's when you get 80% through a print job and you start to see the top layer, and you're like, oh, what have I done? And then you get through the print, and then you go to rough fit it, and you're like, okay, we're in the right direction. And now you're down to just, fractions of a millimeter. And you're like, okay, I got to enhance this, resize this. And then next thing you know, you're 3 more prints into it just to get the fit you like.
Yeah.
But the coolest thing about all that is, and I totally get the video editing analogy, believe me. Once you get it right and it's done, it's done. You're like, this is done. And then maybe later, after some time, you go, well,
George Lucas it.
Just a bit,
Are we going to see special editions? Special edition of the Ecto-Rack.
Oh, no limited edition green packs or anything like that. No. But if you can improve on it, and you can make it better and make it more durable and make it so, a 5-year-old kid can slam it at 16, 20 times without it breaking before they forget playing, when they're done playing with the toy after a week or two.
Yeah.
I mean, that's good. That's real good. And that in the long term, durability is the long-term goal. How do we make these last as long as some of the parts that were made when we were kids, but longer than the ones that we knew that broke?
Right.
That's the thing. And we see it with so many toys, and it wasn't just Kenner, it was Hasbro too, with some of the G.I. Joe vehicle pieces.
And the thumbs.
Exactly, yeah. So how do we take the tech we have today and say, you know what, granted, the childhood version of me would love the idea of creating their own action figures, but how do we take this tech today and make these figures last another 30 or 60 years and be viable for kids for another 30 or 60 years? And that's kind of the thing, breathing new life into old toys. That's kind of what I want to do, and that's hopefully what I am doing.
You
positive
are.
spots, which is fantastic. But if we can keep doing that, and kids can have the same sort of experiences we had growing up playing with toys, that creativity, man, that's the stuff that really drives you later on in life, and it gives you an opportunity to do what you want later on in life, is having those creative moments as a kid. So if we can make toys more durable for that and give those kids those opportunities that we had, who knows? Anything's possible. So, durability, long run. That's the goal.
I didn't test this stuff out because I've had some other 3D printed items, and I know they can be very fragile.
Sure.
Depending on materials used, also by design. So I obviously, I'm not going to give this like a, rip on it and crank on it and step on it and see how tough is this. But I guess you can tell us, for the people, not that they're going to be stomping on it, but if they do want to give it to their kids, how much punishment can this take if it's given to a kid? And,
Yeah, and that's awesome. So what we've done is I've gone back and I've looked at some of the different filaments I've used over the last 6 months, and I went and printed the same file over again, did a durability test, literally threw the thing across the garage, 40 pounds of pressure with my thumb, that sort of crazy stuff. And, the batches that I'm running out now, if you're a professional wrestler and you want to break it, by all means, go for it, but your kid, if they're playing with it, it should be good. I had a customer about 2 weeks ago. Their kid was playing with it, and I realized that might have been a bad batch of plastic. Sent them a brand new set, redesigned and everything. And the reason I do that is these are kids, man. They want to play with these toys as fast as possible. So constantly taking the product, and I'm constantly, over 20, 30 days, let's test it again. Let's make sure it's still durable. I've got some packs out there that I've had for 90 days that I'm still putting through stress tests to see if they're holding up, and they still are. Material-wise, that's always been the tricky thing with 3D printing. When you're printing with certain plastics, there's obviously certain things that are going off into the atmosphere. You don't want to do anything crazy in your garage unless you have proper ventilation, which I do, which is I'm very thankful for. But you also don't want to be around those plastics either. And then you look at long-term stuff with plastics, in the environment and whatnot. So it's one of these things where if I can make a product durable, then I'll sell it. If I can't make it durable, then why bother selling it?
Right.
It needs to be redesigned again and again and again. So I will.
Because it's just going to end up in a landfill, right?
Exactly.
After a week of fun.
Exactly. And one of the things that I love is people will email me, and I love it. And if you tell, I'm used to getting feedback from people on what I do in my performance, et cetera, et cetera. So it's one of these things where over the last 10 years, I've learned to grow through feedback. So when I get feedback on things,
Yeah, you got to teach me how to do that because
I'll
I'm seem to
from a
be
teaching.
immune to the growth for feedback thing.
It's one of those things. It's a hard skill, but it's you just take it, and it's like okay, not all feedback is great, but that's just life. But
I think if it comes from the right place, you can tell
exactly, exactly,
what is good-hearted feedback and what's just
yeah,
nitpicking.
exactly, and you get the feedback right, and you make something, and you send it back out, and if it's appreciated and it's awesome, you did well, and that's
Yeah,
cool. And then you just go from there, and you build upon that, and you build upon that, and then next thing you know, if you can't build upon anything else, it's when you go open up a hot dog stand and do that instead, you know?
that's
So,
right. In a few weeks, when everything
yeah,
blows over.
yeah, exactly.
But I'm just giving this like a good squeeze here.
Yeah,
And I didn't try this before, but now after just talking to you and
yeah,
hearing, like, I wouldn't have given this a squeeze like this in the review because I would have expected snappity snap.
yeah.
This stuff is strong, brothers, like and sisters. This is strong. This stuff feels just like the vintage Kenner stuff, if not sturdier. And the design of putting it on the back is it's improved. With the plugging into the back,
Let me tell you about that.
one
Yeah.
thing, yeah, I want to say one thing people need to understand is with 3D printing, like even if you got this perfect, which it might be perfect, not all of these are the same. And I've had some figure stands in the past which they didn't fit perfectly on the stands, and that's because my run of figures is different, in
Mhm.
my area of the world from whoever designed them. So that's one of the things that I wanted to be sure in the video to say, like, you've got just a tiny bit of tweaking to do, and like for me, it's as simple as just a snip
Sure.
and done, and
Mhm.
that's it. I mean that I can't believe it's that easy to get it to work.
So when I was watching your video, I was like, oh, cool. He's snipping the back of the packs. I hadn't thought to do that. So what I do is the way they're designed, the X, it's not a real true X. One side is actually slightly shorter than the other. And what you do is you take the pack and you tilt it 45 degrees,
Are you kidding me?
slide it in, tilt it back to 90 degrees. Now, with the figures, and I feel bad because I keep losing light. I haven't turned on my light. This is how professional I am.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay, good. So with the packs though, the original first wave, same thing, 45 degrees to 90 degrees. 45 slide them in, 90 degree they should lock.
Right.
Waves after that, as you said, the inner diameter of the circle is different based on how they were produced. Standard Phillips head screwdriver, round side, stick it into the back of the figure, and it will expand that hole ever so slightly just to get all that extra crud that's on the inside out. Take the pack, 45 degrees, it'll go right in. It'll take a little bit, but it'll go right in. Twist it to 90, and it will lock.
Oops.
No, but I loved your way too. So somebody asked me to go, do I really have to cut the packs? I go, you can do whatever you want. They're yours as soon as they get to you. Cut them, do this, that's your deal.
Yeah.
But I understand it though. Some people, these are your toys from your childhood. These are your collectibles. These are the things you're going to pass on to your kids. So you don't want to damage it. You don't want to lose.
Yeah.
I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah,
But
and that's what happened with the later guys. The later recolors, which is what I mainly wanted these
yeah,
for, don't have that
yeah,
that slot in them. It's
yeah,
just a circle, and I was like,
yeah.
I was trying to figure out a way of doing it without cutting the pack, and I was like, there's just no way. And then it was just such a simple fix. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
You
Let's
know
do
what?
that.
Whatever works for whoever has them, that's what works. Yeah, I'm a big make it work, whatever way you want to do it. But when I was making it, I was like, okay, let's make these things lock into place. And then I did the 45 to 90, and I was like, okay, that works. And then some people they want to widen the back on the other ones, but those are some of the if you don't have those figures, there's some of the cheaper ones. You can get them $7-8 a day all day long on eBay. So
Yeah.
it's one of those things. It's whatever you choose to do to get them to fit on there. That's the most important thing.
Yeah. One of the things that you got to be careful with, just a heads up to people, don't be throwing your Ecto across the room with the roof rack on it, especially the 1A roof rack, because it's got some, like that's the one that has a lot of really nice,
Yeah.
intricate detail. That's the one that is just to sit there and look pretty.
Yeah.
If the kids do a roll, like
Yeah.
you're Yeah, it's and it can't be with that level of detail. It out of any material other than Masters of the Universe, like floppy weapon material, sectars, antenna material. But then you'd have those antennas that'll look like sectars antennas.
Mhm.
So that's I really like about that is it still looks like it's designed by Kenner. It's still fun looking. At the same time, it's got that detail that I appreciate as an adult. Like, oh, this guy is an artist. He's holding back on some of this stuff, but on some of this other stuff, look at all of the stuff going on. It's like die cast Hot Wheels level of yes.
I'm going to start on that. That's for sure. I've thought about it, though. I've been, as I've been putting more and more together the last 2 weeks, I started thinking, it was like, there's got to be a way to make one of these roof racks indestructible. And that's kind of where my head is at right now. So I'll be running a print and then doing something else in 10 minutes while I'm eating a sandwich and go, okay, what can I do to modify this to not change the design all that much, but to make it so that, you can, if you really wanted to smash your Ecto-1 into a wall. I mean, we did it when we were kids. I'm sure we don't want to do it now, but
well, we drop things now.
Yeah, we just drop things.
We
oh, no.
we get like, oh.
Yeah, exactly. The sound, just that little click, and you're like, oh no,
yeah,
that piece, So yeah, and that's the thing. That goes back to the durability thing, though. Maybe there's always going to be a better way to do things. There's always going to be a better way to improve on the durability, and that's part of the fun is figuring that out.
Yeah.
Give me something to do. So.
What's are you kind of where you're at right now with customs? Are you just happy and taking a break, or are you working on some newer things?
So I've got a couple of things. People keep asking me about the PKE meters.
Yeah.
So I've got those.
Sorry about that. I didn't really provide any details in the video. But
about it. I threw them in there. I was like, I think Mike might like these.
Oh,
so.
yeah. I love them. They're amazing. Because you don't know how long I've been looking for the Egon that came with the big yellow.
Yeah.
Like now I can say kind of stupid big yellow. Like I wanted it because it existed.
Yep.
But like compared to yours, hands down, yours is how it should have been.
So I've got those ready to go to be listed. They're on a belt. I call them Buster belts. Whatever, it's a funny name. But
cool.
I know, belts that fit around the existing figures. They will snap on. You got to shimmy it up the figure and then lock it into place. And then it's got 2 spots now, one for a trap, one for a PKE. You'll get 4 belts, in your combination of PKEs and traps for each. I've got that going. I've been working on some extra things for the Ecto-2 vehicle, replacement fan blades, replacement different sort of gun for underneath of it. And I've been working on a little play set for the roof of Ecto-1 for Ecto-2 because I always wondered, where am I going to park this thing? It's just going to sit there like that. So I've got that one working on right now. And a couple of people keep asking me about it. It's one of these pet projects of mine. When I find time, I work on it. But Egans Lab is probably about 75% done. So.
And what is Egans Lab? Like an insert for the Firehouse?
So, Egans Lab was this really cool playset that they were going to release in the final years of Ghostbusters before they stopped releasing products. And they made a handful of prototypes. And I'm going to get this number wrong, and I shouldn't use a number, and somebody will say you got the number wrong, but probably 4, maybe 5 prototypes. I know there were Toy Fair prototypes and then internal prototypes, and that's all I know.
Less than 10.
Less than 10, yes. So there are a couple of people that put pictures of it on the internet. I've seen one person create one from scratch for themselves, just in looking around. And I said to myself one day, this is an unreleased toy that people seem to possibly want to enjoy. Let's see if we can do it. And I had a day off. I forget what it was. It was a holiday, but it was a day off. And I sat down in front of the computer at 8 o'clock, and I pulled every image I could. And I started saying, okay, well, this might be this, this figure is this big. Let's take this measurement and extrapolate it. Let's do this. Let's do that. And by the end of the day, I had a rough shell of it. And now the last couple of things I'm working on are getting moving parts in place, figuring out spring mechanisms to make the different things work. And then we'll have a prototype ready to go. And then it's all about readying a process that doesn't take forever to make them. So it's one of those things that we saw at one point. We probably wanted it as a kid, and then we never thought about it again until one day somebody said, "Hey, look at this cool thing that I got at a sale," and then the story continues. So I've been working on that, and I don't know where I'm going to put it. That's the thing. I've thought about building columns that prop up the firehouse and putting it underneath of the firehouse.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but that's a whole mess of a rabbit hole to go down. But Egans Lab is on the list. Ecto 2 stuff is on the list because that's just such a cool vehicle,
Yeah.
you know.
And it's like, where do you put it exactly? And when you say like to land on the Ecto, I'm like, are you kidding me? That's the ultimate roof rack for real Ghostbusters Ecto.
That roof rack's gonna have to be like, glued on and everything. For Ecto 1, I've redone some parts for that too. I did some fins. I've done them in two-tone,
Awesome.
kind of like the cartoon. Replacement doors, replacement rear door, and a kit just of the lights, just hard plastic lights. I haven't done anything yet with LEDs or anything, but you can glue them on and get that sort of vibe to make it look like the cartoon. Also have a Slimer figure that I've made with a proton pack. I think the picture's somewhere on my Instagram. But you can't go off and fight anybody without Slimer.
Yeah.
You get these ideas. There's so many things you want to do, and it's like, okay, where am I going to find the time? I'll find it. It's just a little bit here, a little bit there.
Yeah. So I didn't know anything about Egon's
That's cool.
lab. How big is it? Because I'm thinking there's a space in the firehouse.
Yeah.
There's that space, and I'm wondering if there's any way, even if it like hung out the back, if it was just propped up on stilts or poles,
Sure.
and part of the firehouse somehow.
I would love it. The way they designed the original toy, it had this giant red hammer though that would come down and pound the ghost into.
Oh God.
So for the authenticity, it's gonna have a giant red hammer that smashes something. I mean, come on.
Maybe you could put it on the roof of the firehouse.
Yeah, he's gone renovating. He's got to have everybody lug it up to the roof.
Yeah.
There's just a whole world of creativity there to do stuff to make more, to make these toys more enjoyable for younger generations. Sky's the limit, really. I mean, it's just what catches your fancy one day. You see something, you're out and about looking at houses, and you see something like that actually might look cool in the firehouse. Or, I've thought about building a display for the packs and all the tools and stuff for the firehouse, kind of like the lockers, but a little different.
Yeah.
So there's a list of ideas. It's just one of those things, just finding time. So,
I got one that'll sell like hotcakes. You remember that toilet?
Yes,
the toilet ghost?
yes,
If
yes.
you did some 3D printed toilet paper, it would sell not like hotcakes.
It would sell out.
It would sell like toilet paper.
Nobody would ever wonder why.
Just like a big pyramid of 3D printed toilet paper.
That would be perfect.
Limit one per customer.
One per customer, one tiny plastic roll.
I'm curious, how long does it take to print, let's say, one proton pack, one Ecto roof rack?
Yeah, roof rack's a bit longer. Depends on the design I use. Early on in the design, I broke it down into pieces and built it piece by piece. So something in smaller pieces, lower height, a little bit faster. So the proton packs the pack and the wand together take 2 hours, I think. Streams 6 to 12, we'll go 12. 12 streams take 2 hours and 30 minutes. Roof rack, 4 hours. Yeah, the Ecto, the 1A roof rack is 4 hours and 45 minutes, maybe.
Wow.
Less the satellite dish, which is another hour. But that's on another machine going at the same time. So, the picture I posted the other day, I've got 5 machines right now. I'll probably have a 6th here, as soon as I get bored. But, if I run, the Ecto 1 rack, that'll take 2.5 hours for the base. The accessories are another hour, and then the radar is another hour. So I spool off 3 red, make 3 mini red spools, and next thing you know, the whole thing's done in the longest time frame. So 3 hours. So it's one of these things where some of it is time consuming. I could always change the thickness of the nozzle, like the Egans Lab prototype that I've been working on. That's that's a zero point 0.6 millimeter nozzle. Sometimes it's a 0.8 just to get the shape right and look right. But if I'm making proton packs, I got to go with something traditional like a 0.4. But time is one of those things. It's fickle. You can go faster with it, and you can make your proton packs faster. You can make anything faster.
But do you want it fast or do you want it good?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like barbecue. 3D printing is, on a regular print, it's just like making barbecue. The slower you go, the better off you are, and the better it's going to taste at the end. Don't eat your proton pack, of course, but stay like
should go without saying.
Yeah, exactly.
But
yeah,
it doesn't.
Please don't eat.
But it doesn't.
You cannot afford to be sued if you eat something.
I'm always saying that. It should go without saying, but it doesn't.
But that's how it is. One time proton packs took an hour and 20 minutes. And then I was like, let's just slow it down and see what happens. Next thing you know, I'm able to throw them against the wall 6 or 8 times with nothing happening. So time is the problem. More machines help reduce time, which is good. And they help reduce the time of just overall production. But then afterwards, it's putting it together, which is another 30 minutes, usually max for anything, So it's a lot of time, but it's not time that I'm standing there staring at it,
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that whole set it and forget it mantra from that terrible TV infomercial from years ago.
Yeah.
So.
And it's similar also to when I'm done, a video, I call it cooking now, or baking, the video is processing and it's exporting. And it just sits there for an hour or 2 or sometimes 3 hours, and I'm off doing other things, but still it's working, and while it's working, I'm not getting to do other things on the computer. Same with you. When your printer is working on one thing, it's taken up. And I wanted to point that out to people. Just, the vast majority of people are awesome. They love the video. They love your stuff. But, I think this is an important thing to just to clarify for the nitpickers or the people who really don't have a sense of appreciation of how much time goes into this stuff. Like, these aren't getting printed off 5 minutes a piece, like
Oh, I wish.
they take a long time. So, just for the aspect of the price issue, I mean, that's not a debate that I will ever even enter into, because the people who bring that stuff up, they do it with all people who do customs. I don't think they have a lick of appreciation for what actually goes into it, what the materials cost, the time it takes to create this stuff, and the care that goes into it, that even when you're done, even when you ship, you're still involved, you still care. And, that's why I wanted to do a video on your stuff. And that's why I'll always support your stuff, always, because it's not just a great product. You're a great guy. You're a good brother. And those are the people that I get behind on this channel, people that, are good people, and you put your heart and soul into your work. And I think those are the people that, we need to support in the toy community.
Very cool, man. I appreciate all that. I really do.
So your favorite toy line when you were a kid, I'm assuming it was Ghostbusters? Don't say Wheeled Warriors.
No.
Well, funny you should mention it. Wheeled Warriors, Mike.
No.
What?
No. When I was a kid.
Not that there's anything wrong with Wheeled Warriors. I love that theme song.
From about 3 to 5, I would say it was Ghostbusters. It was Dino Riders.
Oh yeah.
Cool. Yeah, those were real cool. I got the T-Rex one year. I was so stoked. And Silverhawks.
So what was it about Filmation's Ghostbusters that you really liked? Are you ever going to do Filmation Ghostbusters reproductions?
Somebody actually asked me to make proton packs to fit those figures.
Really?
Really, yeah. An awesome dude on eBay that.
Wild idea.
Really appreciative of my work. I'm actually working on it right now. I got to reply to his message. So if he sees this before the message, honestly, I'm working on it. I swear. Yeah. But he asked me, he's like, can you make proton packs for these figures? And I'm thinking, yeah, I'll just go online and get one. And I'm looking at the prices, like, oh my god, yeah. I don't have that kind of money.
Yeah. Ouch.
So it's like, I could do this. Just send me some measurements, and we'll trial and error. He doesn't know it yet, but he's gonna get a box of just like numbered ones that say this diameter. Tell me which works, please, and let me know, and I'll run those off.
Cool.
But yeah, man. I was out in the garage earlier. I found a Terry Funk wrestling figure from not too long ago when he was right after he was Chainsaw Charlie, and I had a proton pack, so I slapped it on him. I slapped one on a VR trooper. I drilled a hole in one of the aliens figures and gave him a proton pack. There's a Tim Allen action figure. Yeah, drill a hole in him, put a proton pack in him. I just get bored sometimes. I'm drilling holes in extra toys. I'm like, yeah, this really could use a proton pack, you know? And then, you have some fun with it. Somebody asked me to do these packs though for the Diamond Select figures, enhance the size and do something like that. I was like, yeah, that might be cool, But yeah, kid growing up, Ghostbusters, Dino Riders, Silverhawks. Yeah, that was probably it. After that, I moved to Florida. When I was really tiny, I moved to Florida. And then my cousins were all about GI Joe, so I was like, I gotta do GI Joe now, Ninja Turtles. So.
Yeah. Well, the movies, which one do you prefer? I think most people have the same opinion, but part one or part two?
I can't decide that. I mean,
Really?
I can quote part one quite a bit, but every time I watch part two, I still laugh really hard at every Bill Murray line when he's talking to the painting. I just can't stop laughing.
Yeah.
Yada, just trying to protect this painting. And you're like, it's just so deep on so many levels. It's like, here's this guy, his day-to-day job is to protect artwork. And then some random guy off the street just wants to paint on it. There's just something so funny about that. I don't know. I'm eager to see the new one though. I gotta tell you.
Yeah. Afterlife.
I can't wait. I can't wait for that. That's going to be so awesome.
Did you ever play the game, the Ghostbusters? I call it Ghostbusters 3.
Yeah,
for the PS3.
I played the game a little bit, and then I'm not very good at video games.
Me neither.
At a certain age, I was awful, and then some awesome person on YouTube posted themselves playing it with the
walkthrough.
Yeah, so I sat there for a while just watching it, and I was like, now I understand why everybody goes on Twitch and watches these people play video games. This is actually really easy. This is great. So yeah, it's kind of funny when I think about all of it, and I think about where we're at with Ghostbusters and everything, and I think about Harold Ramis, and I think about just all this stuff. It's like, it's amazing. It's just amazing that this new movie is being made. It's amazing that it looks awesome. You know? It looks. I mean, I watched the trailer, my jaw dropped. And I was like, this is going to be good. And don't get me wrong, I know they all commented that the video game was the third one. And I love that idea. And I'm still crossing my fingers for a Rick Moranis cameo in the next one. I'm one of those wishful thinking kind of people. I'd love to see Rick Moranis back doing something. I know he's going to be back soon doing whatchamacallit.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just one of those things. It's everything you loved in your childhood, and finally, somebody saying, you know what? We can do this. We can make this work. We can make a lot of people happy with this, and that's just too cool. That's just too cool for me. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love the video game, but
it seems like the perfect storm. The video game is this perfect thing of it's the lost movie. We didn't get a chance to make it because of whatever reason.
Yeah.
The second movie didn't perform the way we wanted, and I think I love the second one more every time I watch it.
Yeah.
I've gone from, well, that one's disappointing, it's not as good as the first one, to, well, I got to watch it though. I can't just watch Ghostbusters 1 the next day. After every time I watch Ghostbusters 1, the next day I'm like,
gotta watch it too.
Put in 2, why not? And I start to really appreciate the writing, and there's great lines. We came, we saw.
Yeah,
there's a lot of great lines, but the video game Ghostbusters 3, like, this is the what if. Like, what if they had done it? I thought it was brilliant that they set it just 2 or 3 years after Ghostbusters 2, so everyone looks young again.
Really?
The writing is perfect, so it's nice if you want a quick follow-up to part 2. If you want a proper trilogy, then that's nice. But Afterlife, it just seems like it's got its heart in the right place. And talking about Rick Moranis, as much as I want to see the original Ghostbusters, the surviving Ghostbusters, light them up. Make them hard and show whatever is threatening the town how they do things downtown. as much as a chill bump, and it is literally a chill bump moment
I
as
agree.
that would be seeing Dr. Venkman, Dr. Stantz, and Mr. Zedmore
Yeah.
walk in. There is a moment that I think could blow the roof off the place even more, and that's Lewis Tully running in. All right,
Billion
where's the emergency?
It'd be $1 billion box office if Louis Tully comes in and goes, "I just got off the bus, guys. What are we doing? I
And
finally
he's the
found the
one.
place."
Because in part two, he's the one that did nothing but got all the credit. They thought he saved the day. So, unfinished business. If he actually saved the day in Afterlife, and maybe we're like hyping this thing, and now it won't happen,
Yeah, come
but
on.
like like brainstorming or something like that. If the three original guys came in to save the day, and they can't quite get it done, or they're almost about to do it, they need. If we just had one more stream, I
Yeah.
wish Egon was here. And then, hey guys, just tell me where to aim. Pew! If it was
This
four
thing still
Ghostbusters.
works.
Where's the trigger on this thing?
Slimer has to come out and show him how to use it. Oh, do you get
Yeah,
okay? Hi. It's like,
yeah. Like Harold
beautiful.
Ramis, gone but not forgotten, and I think his presence is going to be felt throughout that whole movie because I
Yeah.
have a feeling that's his grandkids that we're seeing in the trailer.
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah.
theory. But
Yeah.
since he's not there to suit up and complete the Fab Four,
Mhm.
it would be awesome if Louis Tully completed the Fab
Okay.
Four.
Years ago, when I first got started in teaching, I did this conference presentation, and I did it on the films of Harold Ramis. And the idea was simple: all these movies that he was attached to as an actor, a writer, director. And I was trying to pitch this idea to other teachers. You could show these movies in your class. You can pull life lessons in the social studies from these movies. And I went and I did the presentation and had all these different things. I recorded it, threw it up on YouTube. And at the time, my dad was dating somebody who was connected to people in Hollywood. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to ask her, hey, can you pass it? See, what are the odds, right? Pass this link along. Let's see if he wants to watch this. So oddly enough, she got me an email address to the talent agency that he was rep by. I was like, whatever, I'll send this off. Hey, hi, Mr. Ramis, I'm Charlie. I did this thing. Your films are awesome. I just want to thank you for everything you've done, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Sent it off, didn't hear
Thanks for
anything.
saving the world in
Yeah,
Ghostbusters
yeah.
too.
Did say, I get a couple of weeks later, I follow up. I was just like, hey, Mr. Ramis, ever see my thing? I get an email back from his agent. He had watched it and he appreciated it. I was like,
Oh,
that's awesome. That was awesome. Now I don't know if the agent was just blowing smoke, but I'm not going to pretend. I'm just like, you know what? I got an email and that worked. So
I believe it
yeah,
because
I hope so.
he seems like a genuinely good guy.
Yeah, yeah. So that kind of started. That was oddly enough. I always joke about this. My grandfather, when he was younger in New Jersey, he worked at Remco, and I only
Oh,
found this out
really?
probably about 6 months ago. And he after that he became a teacher. I've done the opposite, but I always joke, oh, Harold Ramis got me into education, but my grandfather was a teacher and I'm a teacher, but now, I do the toy thing. So I'm going in the opposite direction. So I have two people to blame for being a teacher. And usually that's Harold Ramis, my grandpa, but
Yeah.
it's always just that fun story I love talking about because it's one of those things. Because if you didn't have that love for the movies and you didn't have that love for comedy and just how people are able to bring each other together through film and through humor, and their level of creativity in that regard. I mean, I always say, well, what else would I have done? It's
Yeah.
just one of those things. So it's it's sad. It's a sad thing. It's one of those things that when we look at the new movie though, and you see the Egon stuff, it's awesome. It's right. It feels right. It's like
It's
Bill
a
Murray.
tribute.
Yeah, it's like Bill Murray at the Academy Awards, saying Harold, nominating Harold Ramis for, Director of the Year with all the movies and stuff. It's just one of those things that feels right.
Yeah.
So, if it feels right, it feels right, and that's the most important thing. And I'm glad there's so many people in this world that have that gut feeling, So
And it's really awesome to see original, genuine Ghostbusters getting another crack at the big
oh yeah,
screen.
oh, yeah.
I liked Answer the Call. I guess they're calling it now.
Mm-hmm.
The I call it Ghost Smashers, just so
Mm-hmm.
that because some people have a really they're vehemently against that movie. They hate it. And I'm like, call it Ghost Smashers. It's a perfectly entertaining movie if you call it
Yeah,
Ghost Smashers.
yeah,
There was something that felt wrong about bringing back the original guys, and they're not the original guys. Like,
yeah.
not just one, not just two, not just three.
Everyone.
Did they bring Janine back too? Annie Potts, did she have a cameo in that one? I think maybe.
I, if she did, I might have missed it.
Yeah. And
That's
you shouldn't forget. You
yeah,
should be immediately going, the part when
yeah,
and then the bust of Harold Ramis was nice, but like it's
yeah.
just like this isn't Ghostbusters. It's not. Why are you dropping the
I don't know.
continuity, the history?
That's the thing. Everybody that was in that movie is talented. They're all
Oh
talented,
yeah,
and it's like you don't want to see talented people in something that people won't appreciate their talents otherwise.
right.
I love Kristen Wiig. Kristen Wiig is awesome.
Yeah,
I mean, I think her last season of Saturday Night Live, I TiVoed the whole season just because she was on fire. I didn't know she was leaving at the end of the season, but she was just on fire.
she
And
really
you
is
look,
like a female Bill Murray. She's a comedic
she's
genius herself.
like she I can't not laugh at anything she does. And there's still skits that I see on YouTube that I've never seen before that she did. And I'm like, what is she doing and why is this so funny? And it's probably like the worst skit she's ever done, but there's so much humor in it. And
Yeah,
it's like that with everybody from Saturday Night Live that was in that film. And it's one of those
Holtzman.
things. Yeah.
She was the highlight of the movie for me. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, she is hilarious,
Oh yeah.
and I love that she wasn't trying to be, okay, you're the Egon, you're the Ray. You're like, she
Yeah.
was just like, what is this Holtzman
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah. Let me just do this. Let me just be myself.
Yeah,
But when that movie was coming out, I remember writing something up about using it as a teachable moment because there were so many people hating on the movie, and it hadn't even come out yet. And it really, when you look at it, it's a teachable moment. You can't judge things before you actually see them, and even after you see them, you got to appreciate them for what they are. Pete,
let it
you're right.
sink in.
Some people just nitpick things too much, and it's like, okay, well, I mean, you got any positive criticism we
You,
can grow from?
funny you bring that up. I've got this slogan, and maybe someday someone can put it on a T-shirt. 2 compliments for every criticism.
There you
Because,
go. I like
and I know like those people who can't give a compliment to save their life would hear
yeah.
that phrase and go, "You sound really thirsty, desperate for compliments." And I go, "Well, that's one interpretation, but
Yeah,
another interpretation is." How painful is it for you, like that type of person? How painful
yeah,
is it to give one compliment?
yeah.
It's really painful for the nitpickers to give one. And that's why I say, okay, give 2. Because then
Yeah.
they're like, it's like a
Well,
vampire with
no, you
sunlight.
said one. You said one.
Yeah, it's like a vampire with sunlight. Right?
Oh,
The thought of 2 compliments for every criticism, they don't think it's worth it. They're like, no, 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 no. It's not worth a criticism. Me, I'll give 10 compliments for every criticism. And I do. Like when someone says, can I please get feedback? I try to give like 5 or 10 good
yeah,
things. And then I go, I guess if there's anything to tweak, maybe this.
yeah, yeah. You're more receptive.
Yeah.
You're way more receptive. That's how every evaluation is done in education. Realistically, it's okay. Let's praise, 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 praise. Now, how do we fix this going forward? Well,
Yeah.
you said the thing was good, but you could be doing better.
Well,
And
yeah, don't get a big head. You're not perfect. There was only one Mr. Perfect. His name was Kurt Hennig.
You're highly effective in all of these areas, but you got effective in this.
Yeah.
What happened? And it's like, oh, what did I do? It's
Yeah.
like, let's grow. And I'm like I said, I'm so used to it. I was like, oh, what are you gonna do? But you pick it. You take what you like. You take it together. You do what you do. You take the data, merge it, come up with some sort of solution from it, and say, okay, let's do it. But I can't. I don't know, man. I don't know. But yeah, that movie, people just destroying it before it came out, and it's like visually it looks cool.
Tip of the hat to them for doing it, because
Yeah.
that's gumption.
Yeah.
Like, well, we're doing it anyway. We're gonna do it
Yeah.
anyway, and we're gonna be proud of it. So,
Yeah.
the director's cut is the one I saw, and I thought it was
Yeah.
really funny. So
I love the visual effects. I thought the visual effects were great. I liked seeing modern visual effects in something we love because we got the practical effects more or less in early digital effects in 2. if I'm not mistaken. I might be a little wrong on that, but I just like seeing that. I like seeing what new enhancements look like. And not to the extent of Star Wars, obviously, with George Lucas going back and doing all the crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But you do like to see what some of those new modern effects would look like in something that you have this preconceived notion of what it should be. And it's really cool to see the tech. The tech for that sort of stuff is awesome, and it's mind blowing what people are doing. Like what was that? The Mandalorian. You know,
Oh, yeah.
I read the other day they weren't using real green screens. They had actual HD projections, like a circular HD. I was like, that's awesome.
That's why it felt like a spaghetti western.
Yeah, that's why it looks so amazing. But that's the kind of thing we got to strive to. Practical effects, don't get me wrong, awesome. Always will have a place in my heart. But if you can keep doing it and making things just on par with that, but in such a way where you can expedite the process and still have an amazing product at the end, that's really cool for visual entertainment, you know, and so cool. But yeah, I see maybe 2 movies a year. The rest I watch it, you know, I watch more YouTube now than I've ever watched anything else before. So what do you do?
It's like, CGI is good, but you got to do like the Ghostbusters said, make it hard.
Yeah.
You got the harder, the better. And, you know, the CGI is a shortcut and it's convenient, but sometimes they over rely on it. And then you get a movie that's 100% green screen like Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
And like, is anything real? Did the actors see a single thing that actually they reacted?
Mustafar is fake, but can you please show me this practical effects river of molten lava? I really love it.
It's really hot, so you gotta act like you're hot.
Sweaty.
Well, George, can you maybe spray some water on my face? Maybe. You're an actor. Just act like you're sweating. What are we paying you for?
Keep talking. You won't get the high ground anymore, buddy.
Okay. Yeah. Or the rewrite. Anakin kills Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
And then they tell him, George, you can't do that in A New Hope. Oh, we'll fix A New Hope. Special edition it.
We'll retcon that. It'll be a dream sequence by R2.
Oh, my Lord.
Watching it. Oh, it'd be great.
This has been a blast, Charlie. And just to close out, I want to ask you one more thing. It's not Ghostbusters related, but it is unfinished business related because you talked about Egans Lab.
Yeah.
Is there anything from any other toy line? Not that I'm making a request or anything. You're doing awesome with Real Ghostbusters. And if that's the only thing you ever do, I mean, what more could we ask? You've made this. You've made these $5 figures that are in grab bags at you know the toy conventions and all those different stores. You've made them very sought after now. Like they used to just sit there. But is there another like never produced prototype from another toy line? I'm thinking kind of like Rex Charger from Centurions, or maybe the canceled Visionaries or something like that. Was there anything that you remember seeing other than Egon's Lab that you were like, someone needs to do this?
Years ago, I remember looking in Wizard magazine and there being some X-Men figures that I know I never saw. I know I never saw them in the store. And they're just simple enough that I might be, okay, you know, I love my Toy Biz X-Men figures, so yeah, I might do something with that. You mentioned Centurions, and that has a very cool place in my heart. I always wondered why we didn't get more accessories. I know why we didn't, you know, the cartoon ends and production ends, but I just think there could be so many more cool accessories made for those. G.I. Joe, I made a walker, like an Imperial type walker for G.I. Joe figures that I've still been messing around with. And I've got some other stuff for G.I. Joe here and there that I've been working on. If I see something that, you know, hasn't been made yet, and it seems like there's a cult following after I spend 2 hours going down a rabbit hole, I'll make that. Yeah. They're gonna be, if I can make people happy, that's awesome. That's like the win, you know.
It also needs to be like something that has a fairly big interest, though. Like I totally get that.
Sure.
The Ghostbusters has been revitalized thanks to the movie. That's just a reality. I mean, I've been a huge fan of Ghostbusters for a long time, but it was dormant for a long time until there was some toys started coming out here and there. The game kind of came out. It was starting to test the waters. but it was it was Answer the Call,
Mhm.
despite no matter what anyone thinks of that movie, it's kind of like the Indiana Jones 4.
Mhm.
Whatever you think of that movie, it's still like revitalized. Like, well, let's
Yeah,
get back into the old one if we don't like the new
yeah,
one.
yeah.
And especially now with Afterlife, since they're going back to the drawing board, and even though I didn't mind Answer the Call, I'm so glad the next Ghostbusters movie is not an Answer the Call sequel.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's a Ghostbusters 2 sequel,
Mhm.
picking up where the original one left off. So it's that Afterlife movie that's really making people remember real Ghostbusters again. They're reissuing the figures, which
Mhm.
is perfect timing. It's
Yeah,
absolute
yeah.
perfect timing for your customs. So when it comes to those unfinished business prototypes, like as much as I'd love to see a Rex Charger or some of the suits they never made,
Mhm.
it's not really practical right now because who's going to buy it? There's no Centurions movie on the way. And that's the
Yeah,
bottom line,
there's
or new series.
someone asked me the other day about mask stuff,
Mask
and
2, yeah.
I've I've got some mask things in a box that I played with, took apart, looked at not too long ago, and figured, well, what can I do to bring these back? The helmets are missing from everybody's figures. I know
Yeah.
that for a fact. Um, they got a movie that they're working on pre-production now, or at least they're hashing it out.
Yep.
That might be something. It's one of these things. This is truly an outlet for my creativity, and it's if there's something that I can get really creative with and get sucked into, and it just keeps feeding itself, I'll run with that. And
Yeah.
it may be mask, it may be maybe a new suit for Centurions, it may be anything. It could just be more Ghostbusters stuff. I mean, whatever. Right? At the end of the day, it's the time is well spent
Yeah.
because it's the creative outlet.
And
If make a few bucks on it, cool. If I cover the cost of another machine that just prints it, that's cool too.
that's the important thing. I mean, you're as much as I get the feeling you'd love to do this stuff for free and hand it out for free, because I would too. I would love to just do everything I do for free, but for me, there are bills. Internet
Yes.
isn't free.
Yeah.
The electricity bill isn't free.
Yeah.
Computers, mics, lights aren't free, and same goes with you. I mean, especially like the printing materials, the plastics,
Mhm.
um, your time, all that stuff. So it does need to have some support for it to continue. But with Ghostbusters, I think you've just scratched the surface because I'm thinking, not to put ideas in your head of like, oh man, now I won't get any sleep, but a better containment unit than the one that was included with the
Yeah.
Firehouse.
Oh,
Something,
that piece a mess.
yeah,
What
something.
is this extra piece for?
Something like from the video game with like a window, where you could actually see a ghost like
See the ghost in
Slimer
there. Oh, I
in
want what
there.
is it? I really want a Sam Hain figure. That's what I've been playing with. I've been playing with the sculpting tablet trying to make a Sam Hain figure. I want one so bad.
Yeah, the painting from part two, something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
That
yeah.
maybe there's something about it that moves again in your
Maybe.
style of how would it have looked if Kenner made it in
Yeah. They make that
1989?
spin around trap door thing from Star Trek, and they put the Vigo figure on the other side to pop out. Or Alex
Right.
from Thundercats with Mumra.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. That's probably how they would have done
Yeah.
it.
So I think you're gonna keep nice and busy for quite a while with the Ghostbusters stuff.
Awesome.
But let everyone know how to get a hold of you. You've got an Instagram. It's Charlie's Custom Toy Shop. So it's going to be down there in the comments there. Check out his Instagram there. You got the eBay store.
Yep, yep. I
And
got the eBay store now, and then probably in the next 2 weeks, it's what, middle of March now. Probably looking the beginning of April. It'll be charliescustomtoyshop.com.
oh, cool.
I'll have everything set up there. One of the big requests I got on eBay is the combined shipping stuff. So figure if I do it that, it's easier to do it that way and set it all by ounces and then pre-populate everything. Also, international shipping on eBay, I'm being told, can be quite expensive. So
Yeah.
hopefully by going that route, people internationally, I've had some international interest as well. We can work on prices with that and get these into the hands of those people as well so they can enjoy it too. I don't want anybody spending a mint if they don't have to.
Yeah.
That's
I thought you were gonna say your big request was those little 3D printed toilet paper rolls.
Yeah,
For
you know what? I may make those tomorrow.
oh
I got a half
man,
day tomorrow. I may make them. I
we
got
gotta use something.
yeah, yeah. I got toilet paper, guys. I'm hoarding it. It's just for this
Well,
little Kenner figure.
well, maybe some people who are low, maybe some people are going to use their answer the call Blu-rays. I've been suggesting to people if you've got GI Joe Deke, the
Yeah,
Deke series on DVD,
yeah.
I'm tempted.
Oh man, yeah. You know what? I always get the. I've been hearing this a lot. The phrase I get is "crazy times." Well, it's okay to be crazy in crazy times. A little crazy works good with crazy, but don't go overboard.
Yeah.
You know,
I,
and maintain your positivity, and you'll be fine.
I think Ghostbusters is a great movie to pop in.
Yeah,
For folks who
yeah,
have some extra time, sit down.
yeah,
What movie encapsulates that better of a world gone mad and four
yeah.
dudes just kind of having fun and chilling and it doesn't get to them.
Yeah.
Like Ray, what did you do? the
We're not,
the
you know,
apocalypse is upon us and he just says, what did you do?
we're not at the. Thankfully, we're not at the human sacrifices. We are at the dogs and cats living together in mass hysteria, sitting at most Costco's.
Yeah,
But we're okay though. You
yeah,
know.
yeah, we're still being civil about it.
Yeah,
And it's important to maintain the positive attitude and stay creative.
yeah,
So
yeah.
your stuff
Creativity is tough.
is super creative. I'm glad that you're being creative with it still, and the folks who get it can appreciate the creativity and like the detail is there, the fun is there. It definitely takes me back, and it's fun just twisting this thing. I love it. It makes a fun thing even more fun, and I really appreciate all the time and the effort that you put into it for all of us fans.
Very cool. Thanks, Mike. I really appreciate it too, man.
Thanks a lot, Charlie. Thanks everyone out there for watching on YouTube. The podcast is also available on all the different platforms, Stitcher and Podbean and all those others. But thanks for listening too. Everyone out there, hope you're doing well. Hope you're all safe and healthy. And until next time, Nerdmas Day.